Welcome, Pisces, to Bow and Arrow Tarot. Let's get right into your December reading. Ace of Cups, the Moon, and Six of Pentacles. Wow. All right, excellent. So right away, December starts off with a new opportunity in love, right? Ace of Cups is a beginning in love. It's a beginning in a relationship, a connection, an emotional connection, right? A deep opportunity, or rather, I should say, an opportunity for deep love, right? Opportunities are just that, opportunities. They don't guarantee a great love or twin flame, but it is an opportunity. And within that opportunity, everything is there, as long as all the factors coincide. So you start off with Ace of Cups, you have Moon and Six of Pentacles. Well, that Moon, let's talk about that Moon. Moon energy is a testing phase, right? It's a period where things are not as they seem. You're only getting shadows, right? Under the moon, not everything is as clear as it is in the daylight under the sun. You see things, but you see silhouettes, you see shadows, you see sort of interpretations of things that are there. And so the moon is I want to say it can be a very difficult time, a very emotional time, right? But more than anything, the moon is a testing phase to see, how much do you believe in your abilities of intuition? How confident are you in your strength and the lessons that you've learned? More than anything, this kind of phase here talks about a period where things are going to come to you and they're going to test you a little bit. They're going to test what you've learned so far. What have you learned so far in your life? With the Ace of Cups and that energy there may be an opportunity that comes in your love life, but it's going to be not absolutely clear, right? Things are going to happen right after that opportunity or that, I want to say, meeting, chance meeting, connection, etc., whatever that is, it's definitely new. Aces talk about something very new coming in, right? Yet, with that moon energy there, I'm going to tell you now, Pisces, it's about an exciting new love coming in and being yet careful at the same time, right? Not abandoning all of the things that you've learned, all of the wisdom that you've gathered up until now. And then you have that Six of Pentacles. Money comes into play, generosity. People will be asking for your help, right? Six of Pentacles energy is someone who has learned how to manifest abundance and at the same time understands that the abundance and the material wealth that you accumulate is only there for you to share and make others happy with. Make yourself happy, of course, but really it's about the sharing of the abundance, right? Let's go deeper into this reading. Interesting first three cards. We have Knight of Wands, more money energy, Four of Pentacles, Eight of Swords. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. We're going to pull another three cards, also Pisces, but somebody comes into you hard and fast, and yet there is issues with money, right? You come in strong. First beginning of the month here with that Ace, Moon, and Six. This is very much you, Pisces. You're in a phase right now where you're very comfortable financially. You're able to do for others. You have space now also, I want to say, for a love connection to come in. And yet towards the middle of the month, things get a little bit more dicey. Things get a little bit more complicated. You have a Four of Pentacles coming in, which is a fear of loss. Someone who's not doing very well with their money, someone who holds on, who's miserly, and you have that Knight of Wands. So it feels strongly to me like you have someone coming in for you, right? Pisces, that is very much kind of on your level. Although you are a water sign, you definitely engage with people who are very exciting, who sort of challenge you, who, get your blood going, people who interest you. And the Knight of Wands is exactly that kind of energy to come in. Somebody's coming in who's going to have a great conversation for you. And they're going to be a part of this, I want to say, let me pull this now. This Ace of Cups, I believe this individual is the Ace of Cups. They're giving you everything that you want. You're really unsure about them, and right now you're doing very well financially, so you're very gracious. And yet towards the middle of the month, issues with money are going to come up. There's also other issues. This energy here with this card of sorts. There's also some other issues that come in that have to do with really toxic communication. My feeling in this reading is that this individual comes into you, Pisces, is someone who kind of brings back some old trauma for you. There may be, at first it comes in like a strong love connection. You're unsure, but the attraction is there, right? The initial spark is very strong. The conversation is there. And yet something about them towards the middle of the month, they begin to trigger some old issues for you, Pisces. You may have had some issues to do with how you see yourself, self-esteem, you know what I mean? You may have had some issues before in your life that you've kind of been working through or continually working on. But right now, the space that you're in, those issues are not looming very great, except for the fact this individual comes in and they kind of spark that in you. They kind of spark some old trauma issues. Let's go further. Chariot, Death, wow, and the Fool. So interesting. There's definitely going to be a challenge, right? But it won't be exactly as it seems. They begin to poke some of your triggers that have to do with your past. Perhaps some unhealthy connections you've had, perhaps some trauma that you've had. I feel like also trauma that you've had within yourself, right? There is some issues to do with money here, right? This person may come into you and need some cash or need some money, and it kind of triggers past remembrances of people you've dealt with that seemed like the same type of person. However, it feels to me like this is more of a challenge for you to really tap into your wisdom and your intuition. I don't believe that this person is like the previous individuals. They're triggering things for you, but I feel almost like they're triggering things for you because you've gotten over those things. You know what I'm saying? You've dealt with some of your issues from the past, but to ensure, to sort of reaffirm that you've truly dealt with them, this person is coming in and triggering you, right? It's almost as if, when you learn from poor relationships in the past and things like that, you don't really know that you learned anything until you meet somebody else, right? Who triggers those sort of emotions in you. And then you respond differently. And you're like, oh, wow, I really learned, because in the past, I would have indulged this person, but now I don't. And so this is what I'm saying. This person who comes into you really triggers almost a test in your life that's happening. And that test is, have you learned from your past mistakes? Have you really sort of dealt with some of your trauma? And things will not be as they seem. They're only going to trigger these things, but they're really not going to be about it. For instance, it may be, here's a quick example of what I'm talking about. This person may come into you and perhaps on your first date, you go out for coffee, right? And suddenly this person says, oh my God, I left my wallet at home. And you're triggered right away. You're like, oh, okay, here we go. Maybe in the past you've dealt with people like this and you've given them a lot of leeway. You're like, okay, I'll pay for coffee. It's not a big deal. But you're immediately triggered. Your alarm bells go off. However, it's a legitimate mistake. This person legitimately on this one occasion, unluckily, forgot their wallet. And the next time you go out, perhaps you give them a chance, and the next time you go out, they have everything. They're like, look, I want to make up for it, and they have the cash, and it all kind of works out. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, in the initial with this person, you're going to be triggered in a lot of ways that you've been triggered before. And it's just going to be a very personal testing phase for you. What comes in towards the end of the month is reaffirmation. Pisces, there's huge transformation here, and that transformation is going to be extremely personal because, like I say, it's going to be very much about you sort of being tested in your own unique way and realizing that you have learned your lessons, that you are able to withstand certain scenarios that before you kind of maybe have capitulated to or buckled to. And that reaffirmation that, yes, I have transcended up. Yes, I have gotten more mature. I have learned from my mistakes. I've been tested here with this individual and I come out. You have Chariot and the Fool. Nice energy, a brand new path. And so towards the end of December, Pisces, it feels like a whole new you. It's like that reaffirmation comes in for you. And it feels like, oh my gosh, I really have learned. I really have gotten stronger, right? However that plays out. And so that Fool comes in. You're ready to begin to take a leap of faith again. Chariot comes in also because you're starting very much a new journey. When I say you begin to take that leap of faith again, is that, sometimes when you go through a very sort of a period of like traumatic, like love connections, etc., relationships with people, etc. And yes, you go through it. Like I say, you learn from your mistakes. You believe that you learned from your mistakes, right? And then that person comes in to test you. It's very scary. You're not sure. You're like, am I going to do the same thing I always did? Am I going to immediately fall into the same rut I always have? And you find yourself not falling into that same rut. And you have a renewed confidence. That Fool energy makes a lot of sense because generally what happens, you're not scared of it anymore. Sometimes when you deal with a lot of toxic relationships, you break up with them, you're almost afraid to get into another one because you don't trust yourself, right? You don't trust what you're going to do. You don't trust that you've learned from your mistakes. But when a scenario comes in that proves to you that you have learned and that you are able to change, you are able to make better decisions for yourself, it almost allows you to be more free and to take more leaps of faith and to sort of be more spontaneous because now you have reaffirmed your confidence. Now you have rejuvenated your confidence that if things go sideways, you know what to do, right? You know what to do. You've proven that you know what to do. And so you can let your guard down a little bit and evoke that Fool energy. Cherry coming in. Nice. It's a very interesting reading. Let's get some clarifiers. All right, here we go. Seven of Pentacles. It's interesting because Seven of Pentacles is all about not necessarily being happy with where you're at, having worked towards a particular sort of abundance or gain or manifestation. And then once you get there, like kind of rethinking, all right, now I've achieved this. Is it really what I want? So that's quite interesting that will come in for you. Knight of Wands comes in again to reaffirm. I almost feel like this energy here, this Seven of Pentacles, is not necessarily for you per se, but this is almost more of the energy of this Knight of Pentacles individual comes into you. And why this kind of revolves around money. You may be the type of Pisces who gets involved with people and is very willing to sort of help them financially, right? You don't want to see them go without. And that almost feels like what is at the crux of this testing, because this Knight of Wands comes in strong again. It's reaffirmed in the Clarifiers, right? So you definitely have somebody who comes in very strong for you. They're very fiery. Knight is air energy. Knights are all air energies. So this is air or fire. They have a lot of gift of gab. They're able to talk to you. They have that fiery energy. And it almost feels like this individual comes into you. They come with kind of a sob story about not being happy where they're at. That's why I say the Seven of Pentacles energy feels like it has a lot more to do with your individual and is more clarifying where they're at. Page of Wands is also coming in for you. New energy, confidence, someone who is very individual, right? Is going to move forward with what they want to do, whether they're ready or not. They don't care what anybody else thinks about them. And again, this feels like a very specific message, Pisces, where you're dealing with somebody who absolutely is not necessarily like everyone else you've dealt with, but yet they have a lot of the same traits, right? And you respond to them a lot differently than you're used to respond in situations like this. This is much more an affirmation of you and everything that you've learned and how you've matured and how you've learned to not be used per se, or taken advantage of. And yet it is the Ace of Cups, and yet it is a new love connection. It might be the beginning of a bit of a rocky start with this individual, mostly because this is all about you and your triggers and you kind of like realizing that you've resonated up. And yet, once you go through that, it feels to me like this individual is absolutely going to be perhaps somebody quite good for you. You guys might make a very good connection here. But the beginning starts a little rocky because the beginning is much more about you being tested, your confidence, I want to say, being tested, the way you react. And it could also be that because you react differently in this situation, you know, the prognosis, I would say, for the connection is different also. You may be meeting somebody who does have a touch of that opportunistic attitude, but yet because you respond differently than you have in the past, you're kind of putting them in their place right away and dealing with that aspect, and yet there may be a good connection here. Let's pull out the Oracle cards to see what kind of energies are here for you, Pisces. So we got 2 of them. All right, Spirit of the Clover. All right, and Spirit of the Shoreline. Spirit of the Clover. We have luck, abundance, right? Summer, something fresh, something new. Again, it starts off a little rocky, a little sort of reminiscent of difficult times, but because of the way you handle it, you definitely come out of this, and it does feel like there's a bit of luck on your side, right? That maybe perhaps this time it doesn't work out like it normally does, right? Perhaps this time this individual turns out to be a little bit different. Spirit of the Shoreline, we have calm, tranquil, relaxing. So there's some relaxing energy coming in for you, some calm energy coming in for you. All right, so take those moments. Remember that the energy is there to buoy you up. The energy is there to help you make the right decisions. Very specific message, Pisces. Very specific indeed. All right, well, that's it. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming to Bow and Arrow Tarot. My name is Dorothy. Pisces, this is your December outlook. I hope to see you guys again at my channel. But for right now, I wish you love, light, and peace. Be safe and have a wonderful, wonderful December. Bye-bye now.